Hello, everyone. Today I will give a very short speech about DevOps, about DevStream, also about platform engineering, and a little bit more. Yeah. I know we booked a 45-minute session, but maybe I will use less to give some time back to you because I know there are a lot of sessions today. Yeah. First, maybe let me try to introduce myself briefly. Okay. My name is Tiexin Guo. Yeah. And apparently maybe you can see that because I have lived in Estonia for 2 years, 6 years ago. I took a road trip to Estonia, and during my 9 or 10 days stay there, I really enjoyed the local way of living, the lifestyle, also the weather. Yeah, I guess because I was lucky because it was basically sunny every day. But later I learned that it's not always like that. Yeah, for the most part, it's cloudy, gray, overcast. But you know, when the sun is out, it's totally worth it. Yeah. Later, for some work reasons, I relocated to Germany for a few years, served a few positions there. Besides work, I actually quite like blogging. I maintain a Medium publication, which is called Fourth Coffee. Yeah. Basically, I post on DevOps and everything. Actually, recently, I just wrote a new blog, which is like the next 10 new DevOps tools to watch in 2023, which went viral. So if you're interested, maybe you can have a look, like, comment, and subscribe, right? Okay. Yeah, without further ado, maybe let's get started. I will start with a story today. And it's a story about AWS, Amazon Web Services. When AWS started, it's a monolithic architecture, not microservice at all, because back then, microservice was not even invented yet, right? But as the team, as the product grew bigger and bigger, everything was more difficult than before. It was slower to release. It was also slower to develop. Everything was more chaotic than before. In order to solve this problem, AWS actually split the teams into like smaller teams. And the reason is simple, because smaller teams are more efficient. It's basically like the very beginning stage of any startup company, I would say, when the team is small and when everything is going smoothly and very efficient, right? And actually, that's why microservice got invented. Because if you split the big monolith into a few microservices and each small team maintains only a small service, it makes everything easier, faster, back to the very beginning stage, which is super nice. Yeah. That said, microservices, of course, brings its own challenges. For example, we need more like new tools for deploying all those kind of services. We need like methodologies to ship all those software to the end users and etc. And maybe some of you have heard, for example, AWS has its own like tools or internal tool chains like Apollo, or maybe AWS code pipeline. If you're not familiar with that AWS, maybe you're using another public cloud service. I'm sure all of them have their own like very similar tools to this, right? Like Azure has Azure DevOps, like Alibaba Cloud also has its similar offering. Yeah, this is like the unified DevOps platforms. But to me, there are a few issues with this kind of unified DevOps platforms. And today I will go through maybe 3 of those issues with you together. Yeah. And the first issue is all these unified platforms, they try to be a one-size-fits-all solution, where apparently one size doesn't really fit all, right? For any like very successful DevOps platforms, maybe they can solve like 80% of your problems, but they cannot solve all the problems. Or maybe they can solve your problem, but maybe only to 80% extent. they cannot solve your specific problem perfectly. Because by definition, these kind of unified platforms, they are designed for generic use. They try to suit like everybody's use. And that is why maybe they can solve most of the problem, but maybe not all of them. And to me, this is one of the issues with this kind of a one-stop, one-size-fits-all platforms. And next is a second issue with these kind of solutions, which is vendor lock-in. This is apparent, right? Because this kind of platforms makes it very, very difficult to integrate new tools into these platforms. For example, maybe they don't even provide any API access. You can only use via the user like a graphic interface, right? They don't have API. Maybe you want to build like a hybrid solution. You want to build like a multi-cloud solution. You want to have a hybrid architecture, maybe some on-premise with cloud as well. And it's not easy to use for like cloud platforms, not to mention on-premise, right? These are the kind of issues these kind of like a one-stop platforms present. Yeah. And next is flexibility. Here maybe I can give an example. I will talk about GitOps a little bit. Maybe you have heard of GitOps. Maybe you think it's good for your team for the productivity, and you want to use it. Maybe Argo CD, for example, Flux CD, right? You think they can take your engineering productivity to the next level. That is why you want to give them a try. But the problems begin to appear when you try to integrate them with these kinds of one-size-fits-all platforms. Probably is impossible. If not, it will be like very, very difficult, right? This kind of unified DevOps platform, because by definition they are like created by a cloud provider, which tries to vendor lock you in, right? So these are the three issues with these unified platforms. Just a quick recap: one size doesn't fit all, and vendor lock-in and flexibility, right? Okay, but of course, these unified platforms solves like 90% or 80% of your problems. Maybe you think that's good enough for you, right? Why do I have to be the top 1% of any DevOps teams or companies, right? And here is firm which announced like a report, probably it was in 2018. They predicted that in 2023, which is next year, like 90% of DevOps initiatives will fail. By fail, they mean like fails to meet your original expectations. And that is why we should strive for the best in order to make DevOps efforts worth it, right? Because if you're not among the top like 10%, 20%, like maybe your DevOps efforts will fail to meet your expectations, will fail to meet your initial like initiatives, right? And this is a problem about DevOps platforms, and you want to be the best. But some people today even say that DevOps is already dead, right? Because apparently a lot of developers or development teams, they don't really like to do operations. You know, a lot of companies just rename their job roles from operations to DevOps, and that's it. Or maybe they simply put devs and ops together into the same team and they call it a day, right? But that's not DevOps. That's not how DevOps should work, right? So maybe DevOps is dead, or maybe it isn't because we don't use it properly. But let's say DevOps is dead. Okay, then what's the next thing? If you are on the internet a lot, maybe you have heard this already. Some say the next big thing after DevOps is platform engineering. Basically, it's a discipline of like designing and building tool chains and workflows that enable like self-service capabilities. for software engineering organizations, maybe in the cloud native era, right? Platform engineers provide an integrated product, and they can provide that product to you so that you don't have to worry about building your toolchain yourself. I would say platform engineering basically is creating the DevOps platforms by yourself, so that not everybody needs to know DevOps. They don't have to know about operations. They just worry about the application code, right? That's platform engineering. But of course, based on the description, we already know it will be very expensive, right? Not all companies have enough resource, enough people, enough teams dedicated for this internal DevOps platforms, right? Maybe you can, you don't have enough people. Maybe you say, I just buy some product. I just buy some engineering platform or platform engineering. But again, that goes back to the initial problems of those unified, like one-size-fits-all solutions. You have those drawbacks, which doesn't boost your engineering productivity to the top, right? So if you want to buy something, maybe that's possible for you, but given on the current global economy situation, maybe that's expensive. The purchasing is expensive. Maybe you don't want to do that. So how to solve this problem? How to build engineering platforms or DevOps platforms, or how to boost your engineering productivity to the best, and how to achieve that? And my personal answer would be open source. Because with open source, everything is newer, especially in the DevOps field. We have a lot of new tools emerging every day. And we also have like very best, excellent community support. We can also choose the best tool for the job. For example, if you are building some continuous integration pipelines, maybe you can choose the one that suits you the best. Or maybe you want to build a centralized logging or centralized monitoring solutions. Yeah, you can also pick the tool you like the best, or maybe your team has the most experience in, right? That is the flexibility and the community support provided by open source. And that is why I think if you want to build like platform engineering or engineering platform, maybe open source should be the answer. But of course, for open source DevOps toolchains, there also comes a few like challenges, right? I will also mention a few. First is expensive again, right? Okay, I know I reused this slide, but it's just like platform engineering or those kind of one-size-fits-all platforms. Open source could also be expensive. Here it means, you for the most cases, maybe you don't pay anything to use it, but to learn it, to deploy it, to maintain it, to configure it, and also to integrate it with other pieces, you need like time and resources, and that is a price to pay, right? So you don't pay the money to use it, but still you have to learn, deploy, maintain, stuff like that. That is why open source could also be expensive. In some cases, maybe even more so than those kind of unified DevOps platforms, right? And to me, that's the very, very first problem with those kind of like open source DevOps tools. Next is a steep learning curve, I would say. For each DevOps tool, you need to learn what specific problems it solves, right? And maybe you need to do a lot of investigations. Maybe there will be some alternatives. You need to do some comparisons, read a lot of reviews, and try to test it locally before deciding which one to use, right? You need to learn like all of them, install them, and configure them, use them, and only then can you reach your own conclusion, which is the best for you, right? And that is also the price of open source tools. If you think like the learning curve is not so much, but you need to know that you don't do this for just one piece. You do it for like maybe 10 pieces or even more. Just like a camera body, right? You have like camera frames, like shutters, shutter curtains, right? LCDs and CMOS sensors, batteries, like power unit, stuff like that. In order to make DevOps platforms work, we have a lot of things to worry about. For example, in the very beginning, we have like the issue tracking softwares. We have continuous integration, continuous deployment, centralized logging, centralized monitoring, or even like some traceability, observability, or even some like maybe on-call rotations. We literally have like more than 10 stuff to worry about for complicated DevOps platforms, right? So the learning curve is steep, and you need to do that for like 10 times, if not more. And that is also a challenge. You need to integrate all those kind of pieces together in order to make it work, right? And that, with a lot of challenges, is why we built DevStream, which is an open source project, as aforementioned. I guess based on my talk so far, you already figured out where I'm going with this, right? And you're right. DevStream builds DevOps platforms, and that's it. Maybe I can give a little bit more introduction about it. First, it builds like tailor-made platforms, not just any like one-size-fits-all or unified DevOps platforms. You can build everything from scratch at the click of a button. Here, I took a word from the French language, a la carte, right? Which I think loosely translates to according to the menu, right? It's like going to a restaurant. Instead of ordering the whole menu, you know, like every dishes, maybe you don't do that. You order what you like. Maybe this for main course, maybe that for a salad, maybe that for a drink. You don't order the whole menu, but you customize your dishes. You don't order the predefined menu, a la carte. And that is the DevStream way, because we want to do things the way you like it to be. You can pick, for example, maybe you like GitHub Actions as your CI system. Maybe not. Maybe you want to use Jenkins, right? And that's fine. DevStream is not opinionated. We don't say which is the best tool for you. You can use basically everything. And the DevStream is in charge of integrating all those kind of things together into a DevOps platform. Here, maybe some people will mention what's the difference between DevStream and, for example, Helm, right? Because I would say they have some like resemblances. Because Helm installs software tools into a Kubernetes cluster, and DevStream also installs like some DevOps tools, and some of which are actually indeed installed in Kubernetes clusters. But DevStream is more than that. Install is only the very beginning stage of what DevStream does. Basically, it's a tool chain manager focusing on the chain part, which means configuring and integrating all those kind of pieces together. You only need to basically choose the right tools for you. Maybe you don't even need to choose the right tools because you don't know, because you don't want to do the investigation. Maybe you don't have enough time for that. You just want DevStream to tell you which is the best for you. Maybe just based on a few simple questions, DevStream can recommend like a best practice toolchain for you, and voila, you have it, right? So that's basically DevStream. But how exactly does DevStream do that? Basically, you just define your platform as a YAML configuration and let DevStream worry about the rest, and that's it. If we go a little bit deeper than that, from the architectural point of view, DevStream is made up of two parts. First is core, which is a state machine. And the second part is some plugins. The core part only manages the state, what is defined in your configuration and what does your like platform looks like. And it's each plugin that does the create, the update, the installation, the delete, and stuff like that. Yeah, that is why DevStream can be flexible, because it has a very flexible architecture. Okay. Since we're an open source project, we basically publish everything in our GitHub repo. We also have a roadmap, and for the future, maybe we have a few things to talk about. For example, maybe we want to build a GUI on top of that, so that you don't even have to maintain a YAML config. You just pick this tool for this stage, that tool for that stage, and you click the button, and you have your whole like software lifecycle, like everything, every tool integrate DevOps platform, voila, for you. Yeah. Here I have a few links our official website, blog, and stuff like that. Yeah, maybe you can give it a look. But at last, I want to talk about why maybe you want to trust DevStream. First, I would say because we actually believe in open source and DevOps, and that is the reason we created DevStream and make it open source, right? We don't even want to make any money. We don't even have a go-to-market strategy. We don't have money in our mind since day one. What we want to do simply is to add value to your lives, and that's it. We don't really care about becoming a successful open source tool or maybe graduate from the CNCF community. To hell with that, okay? We don't really care. And that, my friends, is exactly why you should give it a try. Because, what do you have to lose, right? On that bombshell, okay, I'm calling it an end to my presentation, and thank you for listening. Yeah.
Your phone now. Do we have sound coming through now? Yep, okay, awesome. Yeah. Day one of a tech conference, people. So thank you very much for that presentation, since I don't think you heard that last time because we're having microphone issues here. There's no questions online. Do we have any questions in the room? In which case, I would like to say, I guess you have an early lunch. Thank you again for your time this morning, and have a good day further.
Okay, thank you. Bye.